How's it going, Bears fans? Welcome back to Beared Down Uncut. Yesterday, we did a great segment on potential Bears quarterback options. This one, we have an interesting one, which is going to be options where the Bears could get some wide receivers, potentially with Allen Robinson leaving the Bears. The most likely option for the Bears right now with Allen Robinson is he's going to be franchise tagged and then traded away, a sign-in deal, which we've seen a lot of times in this league. My name is Zach Rimbos. I'm the head editor and video producer here at Beared Down, and today I'm joined with my co-host, Jaylen Clinton. Jaylen, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Talk some receivers. Definitely a position that we're going to be looking to improve on in the offseason as well as quarterback. So definitely excited for this video.
So jumping right into it, we've got the biggest question here is if Allen Robinson leaves, who should the Bears get? So we're going to go into depth with some free agent options as well as some potential options that the Bears could pick up. Obviously, they're going to be needing a wide receiver one. Darnell Mooney filled in that role as wide receiver two. We're not sure how Anthony Miller is going to pan out. We'll see if Riley Ridley will still be on the team in 2021. But as of right now, we have to talk about the main option, which is, if Allen Robinson leaves, the Bears are going to have to fill that spot. Not an easy one to fill. Allen Robinson, you can argue, is a top 7 receiver. I would argue top 5, but I'm biased. Definitely a top 10 receiver, so there's no argument about that. But let's jump right into the first option. And actually, we don't have it written out, so I'm just going to talk about it. Obviously, Jaylen, it's so important that the Bears are going to try and retain Allen Robinson however they can.
Yeah, definitely.
You have to wonder.
That would be my first option, is try to re-sign him. I can't let a guy like him just walk into free agency for nothing.
It's really sad to see that the Bears aren't able to work out something with him. Obviously, the cap space is a problem. We've said it multiple times before, and we'll say it again, that the defense, 65% of the salary cap is in that defense. So you'd have to wonder if you make a move for somebody, some quarterback, if Deshaun Watson is even likely at this point, which I'm not too sure it is. Prayers up, though. If you make a move for somebody, trade away a piece, make some moves, cut some people from the roster, potentially you could see a re-sign, but I feel, they've had plenty of time to do something like that, and it's, obviously he deserves it. He does want top 2 wide receiver money, which is extremely difficult, but he's provided so much for this offense. He's done everything you can ask him to do. If he does leave, I wish him the best in his situation. But most likely right now what I see the Bears doing, Ryan Pace specifically, is franchise tag and then trade him away. And obviously you can get a great get some good picks out of that because it's Allen Robinson. He's still a lot of value. He's only 27 years old. But let's jump right into the first option for if Allen Robinson leaves, what the Bears could do and potentially who they could get. And that's Kenny Golladay, obviously a rival. We've seen a lot of Kenny Golladay. He's done some great things. He's the same age as Allen Robinson. I'm pretty sure he's a few months behind him in terms of turning 28. He's 7. He had 20 catches, 338 yards and 2 touchdowns, but was put on IR during the season. The Lions will likely tag and then trade, much like the Allen Robinson situation in Chicago. And ESPN is projecting to give him up for third down compensatory pick per ESPN. Jaylen, what would you think about this one?
Depending on how long you guys have been watching us, I'm a huge fan of Kenny Golladay. Obviously, he's a Chicago native. When I was younger, I went to go watch him play football at St. Carmel. So I'm a huge fan of him. I've always been a huge fan of him. Back in 2017, I wanted the Bears to take him with one of our draft picks in the 4th, and he got taken in the 3rd. So we didn't get a chance to take him. So, but he's a very good wide receiver. I think last year he had 1,000 yards. I think the season before that he had 1,000 yards, and on the only couple games he played, I think he had over 100 yards both games. So obviously he's a very talented receiver. If you look at his stats, you say he had a down season, but he only played a couple games. And, he was definitely affected by injuries. So coming into this free agency, I definitely feel like that teams can pay him money. I know it's a new regime. They have a new front office or a new head coach, who doesn't technically have any ties with Kenny Golladay. They might just let him walk because of the money that he's probably going to be asking for coming off a 300-yard season. So definitely feel like in the open market he's going to get a decent amount of money. And if we do lose Allen Robinson, I would love to bring in a Kenny Golladay type player. He comes home, and gets to play for the city he lived in and was raised in. So that would definitely be something good for me if we were able to acquire him.
Yeah, hometown guy, excuse me, played at North Illinois, or excuse me, not North
Northern
Illinois,
Illinois.
Northern Illinois University, where my parents actually went as well, so they always loved him too. But when in the third round, Bears didn't get him. But last year, is in 2019, was the year where there was a lot of comparisons you could draw between him and Allen Robinson. A lot in terms of competition. Those two were top receivers in the league. Kenny Golladay, as much as it sucks to see him go on IR last season, may have helped him with this signing in regards to he could potentially go somewhere for a lower cost, which could be in the Bears' favor, and we'll see what happens there. Obviously, Kenny Golladay is still a great wide receiver. His injury doesn't put any doubts to that. But let's jump right into the second option. We're going to kind of go down the line a little bit quicker, but we want to go in detail with these top options because obviously, if you're going to replace Allen Robinson, you're going to need to fill that talent. So let's go to Will Fuller. So Will Fuller in 2020 had 53 catches, 879 yards, and 8 touchdowns. He was on pace for around 1,279 yards, but he only played 11 games this season due to a PED suspension. And the Texans will likely franchise tag him as well. But he was projected more yards than Robinson this season. He had a great season. You can't have any doubts about that. Only 53 catches and 879 yards. It's pretty crazy. But this is a potential option for the Chicago Bears. It would be very interesting to pull in. And you could only wish that if Deshaun Watson came to Chicago, that Will Fuller could too. That would be awesome. But Jaylen, what do you think about this one?
Will Fuller is a very talented receiver. The only real problem for me with him is his injuries. He's damn near been injured his whole career in the NFL. I think in his rookie season or the second year he tore his ACL. Last year he tore his ACL. So he's very injury prone, but when he's on the field, he's a very good receiver. He's a deep threat. He's very fast. Obviously he was the best receiver this year for the Texans, and obviously if they want to have a chance at keeping Watson, then they're obviously going to have to keep him because they already traded DeAndre Hopkins. So. Like I said, Will Fuller is a very talented receiver. He's very fast. He's a deep threat. Whoever our quarterback next year is Will Fuller is going to bring in a type of guy that can get behind the defense. And in 2021, where all the corners are fast, you got linebackers that are running 4.4s, you're going to need speed.
Yeah, so Will Fuller would be a great option, and then we can go south here and look at Chris Godwin, which obviously plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but you got Mike Evans also, and signed Antonio Brown in the offseason. Chris Godwin had 65 receptions for 840 yards, 7 touchdowns, and he's only 25 years old. Played primarily in the slot in Tampa Bay, but in Tampa Bay saw about 31% of his snaps outside of the slot. But it could be a great option for the Bears and potentially cheap as well. His value has decreased a little bit. He wasn't the main guy this season, but you still can't take slight to his name. Chris Godwin, obviously, separated from years of, he was really great with Mike Evans down there. But what do you think about this one, Jaylen?
Another very good receiver. Obviously he didn't really get the opportunity to get multiple 1,000-yard seasons because he's playing with Mike Evans, who just broke the record for, I think, 7 consecutive 1,000 yards in a row with Tampa Bay. So obviously he's in Tampa Bay. He was a number 2 option. Coming here, he's definitely going to be at the number 1, especially if we lose Allen Robinson. So who knows? Like you said, he's only 25 years old. He's already put up 1,000 yards, being the number 2 wide receiver. And continue to put up great numbers this year. So I think he's definitely that odd man now. Like you said, they brought in Antonio Brown. He might stay with Tampa Bay because I highly doubt a lot of teams are going to be looking to sign him because of all the stuff that have been going on in the last couple of years with him. But definitely a very good option. Any team that gets him is going to be very lucky to have a guy like Chris Godwin on their team.
Yeah, he's so under the radar, and with obviously it makes sense. Mike Evans, like you were saying, he's had consecutive 1,000-yard seasons for multiple seasons. It's really crazy what he's been able to do in Tampa Bay. But you can't say anything less about Chris Godwin, who did just as much. Probably not more than Mike Evans, but obviously a great option. And if the Bears could pick him up, he's got a lot of talent. And like I said, I think the most appealing thing about him is he's only 25 years old. He's a young wide receiver, so he's got a lot of time left still. But let's jump right into the next option, which obviously Bears and a lot of NFL fans heard about this season, not for the Bears, but just of his name this season, and that's JuJu SmithSchuster. In 2020, he had 97 catches for 831 yards and 9 touchdowns. A lot of people were that was kind of the thing of the season to be talking about JuJu SmithSchuster and his TikToks and all that, social media. But yeah, I guess you could say in a sense he had a down year, but he's shown some promise in the past. Primarily when Antonio Brown was in Pittsburgh, he had a good season as well. But yeah, I mean, this could be an option for the Bears as well. I mean, maybe there's potential there. Jaylen, what do you think about this one?
Like you said, many people know him, maybe not for the right reasons because he was dancing on other teams' logos and stuff like that. But JuJu is still a talented receiver when he's there. So I really don't know because, like I said, he definitely brings a lot of baggage with him. He's not a bad player. He's not an off the field issue type player, but you don't know if he's really bringing the mentally ready or fit to play football. So I definitely think he's very talented, but at the same time, I don't even think Pittsburgh lets him walk. He's their best receiver right now, but Pittsburgh is very talented at scouting receivers. They have Deontay Johnson, obviously Chase Claypool, James Washington is played very good, and as well as JuJu. So who knows? But personally, I wouldn't want JuJu. I would take a couple guys over him that we talked about, but I definitely wouldn't be opposed to it though.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's really hard to fill Allen Robinson's shoes, and I think those top 3 options do the best at that in terms of who the Bears could potentially get. So we're just kind of running through some options, but obviously you want to go for the top guys. It just kind of depends on how much you can sign them for and all of that. So let's jump right into the next option, which is Corey Davis. So Corey Davis had 65 receptions for 984 yards and 5 touchdowns. Another option for the Bears potentially. I'm not sure how much he could be signed for, but an interesting option for sure. Jaylen, what would you think about bringing Corey Davis to Chicago?
Corey Davis has definitely had a very up and down career. He was the 5th pick back in 2017. He really hasn't produced to that draft slot. Obviously, he's another kid from Illinois. He was born in Wheaton. And his brother played for us, Titus, rest in peace and stuff like that. But I really don't know. Depending on how much he's asking for, I don't think he can come in and replace Allen Robinson from production or even come close to it, just because he's been very inconsistent for us.
Yeah, definitely. And then let's jump to the next option, which is Curtis Samuel. So Curtis Samuel of the Carolina Panthers had 77 receptions, 851 yards, and 3 touchdowns, as well as 200 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. He had over 1,000 yards from scrimmage and 49 first downs. An interesting guy. He's only 25 as well, same age as Chris Godwin. Could potentially be an option for the Chicago Bears. He's projected 4 years, about $46 million. But could be a very interesting option for the Bears. Obviously, like we said, these options aren't really easy to fill for Allen Robinson, but could be a very interesting one. I wouldn't mind seeing it. I like Curtis Samuel. I think he's shown some promise as well. Like I said, he's only 25, but he's kind of an all-purpose type of guy. It'd be really interesting to see him in Chicago and how Matt Nagy could potentially use him, and Bill Lazor. We're assuming Bill Lazor will be back, but it could be interesting for the offense. Jaylen, what do you think about Curtis Samuel?
He's a gadget guy. Like, he's a return specialist. I know he played a decent amount of running back for Carolina this year. He's obviously their slot receiver. I know a lot of Carolina Panthers fans were saying like he's their security blanket, especially on 3rd down. I think he was the best wide receiver in third down conversions. So that goes to show you how reliable he is when he needs to convert the sticks. So definitely another interesting option. He could come here and not just play receiver for us. He can be all over the field, and a type of player like that in Matt Nagy's system is I wouldn't say poised to break out because Matt Nagy doesn't use his players like he's supposed to, but hopefully Bill Lazor can use his obviously versatility, speed, and athleticism to our advantage, so we can put him in the best position possible for him to succeed here. So definitely another interesting option that I wouldn't be opposed to bringing
Yeah.
in, but I don't think he could be a number one wide receiver here though.
No, I don't believe so either, but it would be interesting. He is, like you said, kind of a gadget guy, all-purpose type of guy. It could be interesting if he's used in the correct situation. But let's jump right to our seventh one, which is Marvin Jones. Marvin Jones from the Detroit Lions had 76 catches, 978 yards, and 9 touchdowns. The main problem with him is, and we'll go through a couple of other veterans as well, but he is 31 years old, obviously a little bit older. But he's a former Bengals wideout, and it could be an interesting option. But I mean, these really aren't fillers for Allen Robinson. You can't really find too many to fill Allen Robinson's shoes. But Marvin Jones could be a really cheap option for the Chicago Bears. Regardless, you could pick him up for maybe around I don't know, like 14 million, maybe a year. It could be an interesting option, or not year, excuse me, 14 million, maybe over like 2 years. But could be a really interesting option for the Bears, who wide receivers seemingly becoming a very important issue with this team. But what do you think about signing a rival in Marvin Jones?
Personally, I would like to stay away just because of his age. He's not a bad player at all. I'm not saying that. He's very talented. He's obviously been a very good receiver for the Lions. I think he's been there for like 4 or 5 years right now. So he's obviously been a very good receiver, but due to his age and us already having a problem with cap, I wouldn't spend a lot of cap on 32, going to see the 32-year-old wide receiver to rely on. So I would definitely pass up on him. But if we had kept Allen Robinson, I would definitely not be opposed to him being that technically number 2 and playing on the outside as well with him and Darnell Mooney in the slot. So.
Yeah, and I mean, you've seen the Bears in the past. We signed Ted Ginn Jr. in the offseason going into the 2020 season.
That didn't work at all.
It did not pan out. An older guy, we thought it would work out perhaps. Maybe not step up into the role that we were, I don't think that we were expecting much, but not step into the role like that. But we thought he was going to be able to give the Bears some speed, and mainly became a punt return specialist who did not do very well at that either. So that was a pretty bad signing from the Bears. So age is something you got to be really wary of, especially with wide receivers. You're going to need some explosive guys, and that's why options like Chris Godwin, like Curtis Samuel are pretty interesting because they're both 25. So you have to take that into account as well. But let's jump into the next option, another veteran, obviously a very, very well-known name, which is T.Y. Hilton of the Indianapolis Colts. He is 32. 56 catches, though, in 2020 for 762 yards and 5 touchdowns. He had hope that he would be able to return Phillip Rivers at quarterback, but he didn't reach nearly what he was in years like 2018, which, I think he had 1,270 yards or something like that in 2018. It'd be a very, very cheap option. T.Y. Hilton, obviously, was a great wide receiver for a long time for the Colts. And it'd be pretty cool to see him, but again, I didn't change the thing. But T.Y. Hilton, you got to be wary of that age, like I was saying, and not somebody who could fill Allen Robinson's shoes, but could potentially be a depth piece. T.Y. Hilton probably would be like a 1-year deal. You'd see something maybe around 7 million, 8 million a year. But it could be interesting. Jaylen, what do you think about this one?
Another option I would probably stay away from, and that's even if the Colts let him walk. He's one of the best receivers of all time. They've had a lot of good receivers, and he's definitely up there. Like you say, he's been a very good receiver for a long time with them. I know that him and Phillip Rivers didn't really have a good season together. I know they started to pick up as the Colts went on their playoff run or try to get into the playoffs and stuff like that. So. I know he could still probably give you 700, 800 yards a season for another couple seasons, but I would stay away from him just because of his age and him only being – I guess he could play on the outside because of his speed, but he's mainly a slot receiver, and we already have that role filled with Darnell Mooney.
Yeah, definitely. And it would be interesting, but again, like you said, and like we'll probably say for these last couple of options as well, outside of Sammy Watkins, who we'll be detailing after this one. But the next one is A.J. Green, who is 33, but had 47 catches for 523 yards and 2 touchdowns in 2020. a wideout who did not bounce back as planned. Green had a dismal 41.7% catch rate through the first 5 weeks of the season. Obviously they had that rookie in T. Higgins who had a great season, but AJ Green, has been with the Bengals a long, long time. Had some good seasons. I don't think he was ever solidified as a number one, maybe, but I don't think he would definitely fill that role at all for the Bears. Again, 33 years old. Would be very, very tough to bring in someone like that and expect great things out of him. I like AJ Green, but definitely I would say no for this one. Jaylen, are you in agreement with me?
Yeah, definitely due to his age, but AJ Green was a very good wide receiver for a long time. He was one of the best for a very long time, So, but right now he's like you said, he's 33. He's been hurt the last couple of seasons, and I'm not gonna say that continues because I don't wish injury for any NFL player, but I just don't trust him in staying on the field and being our number one option or our number one wide receiver for us to rely on at such an old age. So I'm also going to pass up on AJ.
Yep. And let's go last option here that we're going to run through. There are a couple of others like Julian Edelman is potentially option as well. Antonio Brown, like we were saying earlier, is probably going to be re-signed. It would just make the most sense. But Deshaun Jackson is also a free agent. He'll likely retire. Larry Fitzgerald is also another one, but he's 38. I don't see any way that he doesn't
And he's
retire after
he's
this.
definitely not leaving the Cardinals.
Yeah, no, he's definitely going to retire this season for the Arizona Cardinals. But obviously a great career out of Larry legend. But let's go into the last option here, which is Sammy Watkins. So in 2020, 37 catches for 421 yards and 2 touchdowns. Sammy Watkins had a really, really big deal with the Kansas City Chiefs. He's 28 years old. He was a former Bills first rounder. Struggled through another injury hit season. But he is not too bad of a wide receiver. He's just struggled with a few injury and is pretty inconsistent, especially for the Kansas City Chiefs, who obviously they have Tyreek Hill, so that's their main go-to guy, along with Travis Kelce, who's practically a wide receiver in himself. It's pretty crazy seeing that guy, what he does. But Sammy Watkins, a potential option for the Chicago Bears. He's 28, like I was saying. But if you're trying to fill the Allen Robinson role, I don't think Sammy Watkins does that. And, like him, loved him in Buffalo. But I'm going to say no for this one. Jaylen, what do you think?
Yeah, same here. He just can't stay on the field. Last season he dealt with injuries. This season he's dealing with injuries. He doesn't even know if he's going to be able to play for the Super Bowl. So that goes to show you how injury prone he's been over the last couple of years. I know back in what was that, 2018? The year we got Allen Robinson, Pace was choosing between him or Sammy Watkins. But I think he actually wanted both. And I thank God that didn't happen because people would have been mad at Pace for signing an injury prone wide receiver like Sammy Watkins and giving him all that money. So Pace definitely made the right decision in choosing Allen Robinson over him. But I'm definitely gonna pass because just his inability to stay on the field.
And you have to talk about the way that Allen Robinson was able to come back from that ACL injury.
Yeah.
And now he's a top 10 wide receiver. It's really insane. It's crazy that he hasn't been resigned by the Chicago Bears. And you would expect.
Like I said, sorry for cutting you off here, but I don't see. I get like he might be getting fed up because of when it's the off season for us, and free agency is what in like 3 weeks or so before the new season starts up technically. So I just don't see Pace letting him walk. Now, if this was a new regime, it's possible, but Pace is usually a type of a GM to make sure his guys get the money they deserve. Maybe they can come to a contract agreement just because of our cap space. So that's probably why Pace is waiting so long. He wants to clear some cap before he pays Allen Robinson a lot of money. But he definitely deserves it. Like I said, most likely we see a franchise tag and continue to work out a deal there. But I just don't see Allen Robinson walking. I can't come up with like reasons for why we would let him walk, especially when he came off a better season than he had last year. 1,200 yards, seven or six touchdowns this season, and another season where he had over 100 catches. So I just don't see that happen.
Absolutely. You get great draft capital out of them regardless, even if you tag them and trade, like we were saying. But you are right. It's still, we're not in the main part of the offseason yet. Ryan Pace can make some moves that you could potentially see a signing. I'm not sure how likely that is, but you'd also have to think in terms of what the Bears are going to do with quarterback. If I assume they're probably not going to go for a rookie quarterback in this draft, just because I believe since Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy are likely on their last year here, their last chance, they're going to have to make the move and go for the top guys. I know obviously they've called Deshaun Watson. I don't think there's really too many teams without solidified quarterback positions who haven't. But obviously with Matthew Stafford going to LA for 2 first-rounders, a third, and Jared Goff. A lot of people think that
crazy because I don't know how they freaking got 2 first-round picks for Matthew Stafford.
I think a lot of it is that contract, and that's what I'm saying is you're just gonna have to take into account if you take on a quarterback. If you take on Deshaun Watson, I mean, maybe Allen Robinson will stay on the franchise tag. If not, you make some moves, and maybe if obviously you're gonna have to trade a big player for Deshaun Watson as well. If Khalil Mack goes, if Kyle Fuller goes, or if you see someone like Roquan Smith who's still on his rookie deal, isn't taking that much of a salary cap hit yet. But you could see some interesting moves this offseason, some people going. And maybe there's still a potential chance that Allen Robinson gets re-signed. Obviously, you've seen a lot in his social media, but I think a lot of that is just kind of stirring the pot. That's kind of what they do.
Trying to get leverage. A lot of players do that nowadays in social media.
And that's how it goes. So a lot of people are overreacting. I think a lot of that. And you bring up a great point is we're in the early off season. So, we'll see what happens. It'll be very interesting. Bears do have a couple of options for wide receiver, and so we just broke that down with you guys. But that'll pretty much do it for us, guys. Do you have any last words, Jaylen?
No, bear down. That's about it. Resign Allen Robinson.
Yeah, love the guy. I really want to see him back here in 2021 for the Chicago Bears, regardless of who's back there under center. But thank you guys very much for tuning in to technically another podcast. This is a really long one, but always love producing content for you guys. And yeah, that'll pretty much do it for us, guys. Thank you guys very much for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.